in neuroplasticity and functional exercise, which are the two main components of exercising when you have multiple sclerosis. And it's a very different approach from orthopedic physical therapy, which, as you may know if you've been to one, it focuses more on reducing pain and improving overall strength versus strength specifically for the neural pathways. So today, what we're going to be focusing on is stretching, and specifically stretching to reduce spasticity so that mobility is easier. So I'm going to do a very quick demonstration first as to just to show you how these specific stretches will be helpful for your mobility. And then we're just going to dive in and do it together. I always like to remind everyone to have some cold water nearby if possible, especially if you're someone who has heat intolerance. Heat intolerance is when your core temperature rises by at least half of a degree and causes one or multiple symptoms to worsen. And even though we're focusing on stretching today, it can still increase our core temperature. So just better safe than sorry to have that water nearby. All right, so all of our stretches that we do today are going to be beneficial to help improve mobility, whether that means scooting forward and moving around in a chair, or transferring from one surface to another, or staying up and mobile and walking around with or without a mobility aid. When it comes to walking, the most common complaints that I hear from my patients with MS is that they're hinging forward like this, or their body weight is more in their toes than their heels, or maybe their back is really rounded. And a lot of that stems from tightness in our hips and our knees and ankles. So we're going to be stretching those areas. And some of the biggest discomforts from a seated position would be that they're really slouched, which again can be caused from spasticity and tightness. So we're going to start at the top and work our way down, and we should have time to do 2 rounds of each of these stretches. I'm just going to lower this a little bit further so you can make sure you see my ankles. Okay. All right, so first thing I want you to do is sit up in the middle of your chair, just up as tall as you can be, and just shake everything out. It's really important to allow your body to relax. And more often than not, our body's carrying a lot of tension, and especially with MS, inflammation, and you might be in fight or flight mode. So shaking is a great way to tell your brain, relax, let go, get rid of this tightness. So just shake, wobble, shimmy, wiggle, whatever you got to do, just telling your brain, calm down, turn off, we're going to relax, which might sound silly if you haven't done that before, but it can be a really big help. All right. Once you feel like you're done shaking, go ahead and slow down. So making sure you're still sitting up tall. And you're going to scoot, let's see, I'm going to have you scoot forward first. So you're towards the edge of your chair, but you want to make sure you're still feeling safe. And if you can, don't use your arms as you attempt to straighten one leg. If you need to use an arm, go ahead and use it, but always try first to not use your arm. Once it's straight, hands are going to be on the opposite lower thigh, sit up tall, and hinge forward. This is one of my favorite first stretches to do. This is the hamstring stretch. So you should feel this stretch anywhere from that bone that you sit on all the way to behind your knee. Anywhere in there is fair game. And this stretch is going to be even more helpful for you if you're someone who has really tight knees. Maybe straightening your knee is hard or bending your knee is hard. This can be a really effective stretch. So we're going to hold here just a little bit longer. And you're making sure your back is flat. If you stay where you are, I'm going to turn to my side to show you. My back is flat. I'm not rounding. Rounding often allows you to go even further, but oftentimes when you're going further with a rounded back, that's not necessarily a bigger stretch, and you're more likely to tweak or injure your back. So keeping a flat back can be really helpful. All right, when you're ready, crawl your way back up nice and tall. Try your best not to use your hands as you bring that leg in. If it didn't work and you need to use your hands, go for it. And then straighten your other leg. Doesn't matter what your ankle is doing. It can be floppy, relaxed, whatever it wants to do. Hands on your opposite lower thigh. Sit up tall and hinge forward. Take a deep breath if you need to, telling your brain to relax, allow your body to get the stretch that it's trying to get. Today we're holding the stretches for anywhere between 20 and 40 seconds or so. Research shows that that is one of 3 effective ways to stretch, and it's always one that I like to start with. And again, you should be feeling this on the back part of your leg, between the butt, the bone that you sit on, and then the knee. All right, and when you're ready, walk your way back up. Try your best not to use your hands as you bring that leg in. The next stretch we're going to do, we're staying in our hips. You're going to either cross one leg over the other, sit up tall and hinge forward as one knee falls out to the side. That's the modified version. Or if you can, use your arms to grab your leg, place it on the opposite lower thigh, sit up tall, and hinge forward. So regardless of the option that you're doing, we all have one knee that's falling out to the side, whether your ankle's crossed down at the bottom or up at your knee. And you should be feeling this stretch somewhere on the outside of your hip or the outside of your thigh, depending on where your body is tightest. But somewhere on the outside is where you should be feeling it. If you're feeling it anywhere else, I want you to tell yourself to relax this leg. This leg should be dead weight, just not doing anything. Your hands are holding it here. Allow it to rest. And that's often when you'll get to feel it on the correct side. This is one of my favorite stretches of all time. Not because I'm flexible in it, but because my muscles are tight, so I always feel a good stretch here. I'm gonna hold this a little longer. So for anyone that cares about what muscles we're stretching, that first one was the hamstrings. This one is the piriformis and some of the gluteal muscles. When you're ready, we're going to switch sides. So if you're hinging forward, stop hinging. So come back up tall. If your leg is up here, use your hands to slowly let it back down. And then we're going to switch. So either across your other ankle or use your arms to grab your leg. Relax it on your leg or across your ankle so that this leg is just dead weight. Sit up tall and hinge forward. I can already tell that I'm a little bit tighter on this side than the other side. I'm really feeling that stretch. So again, hopefully you're feeling it somewhere on the outside. Keeping that back flat. Let me show you again. So if I'm keeping my back flat, this is about as far forward as I can hinge while feeling a good stretch without pushing too much into any discomfort. But watch what happens. If I round, I can come all the way down here. And this feels like the same amount of a stretch as keeping my back flat but staying up here. But this position is much less likely to tweak or injure my back. So if you're someone who is rounding, I'd highly encourage you not to if possible. Right. Now, if you have tightness in these muscles, one way that can manifest is your hips dropping or swaying when you're walking. So this could help improve that if you have spasticity or tightness in those muscles. When you're ready, come back up, lower that leg down. Go ahead and shake everything out again. We want to make sure that we're reminding our bodies to relax. You should not be pushing into any pain or discomfort or trying to let our muscles let go. So much of the day we're in fight or flight mode and they just stay tense. So shake everything out. All right, we're going to go ahead and do a twist for our torso. So go ahead and bring one arm. So if you turn towards the right, your right hand comes somewhere behind you. It doesn't matter how high. It's going to depend on what you're sitting on. Then your left hand comes to the outside of your right knee and use your hands to twist. So your abdominal should not be working. Your back muscles shouldn't be working. Your arms are the muscles working to help you twist as far as you can go. Keep breathing. more seconds here. And when you're ready, unwind. So let your arms relax, slowly come back to the center. We're going to do a little quick shake, little shimmy. And then when you're ready, going right over to the other side. So turning, left hand comes behind you, right hand comes to the outside of your left leg, and you push against your leg and the chair to turn. Keep breathing. This can be a tricky one to breathe. For some reason, when we twist, our diaphragm sends a message to our brain saying, hey, maybe hold your breath. But we don't want that to happen. Keep breathing. And when you're ready, unwind, coming back to the center. All right, we're now going to do one for the front of our hips. So we've done the back and the side. Now we're going to do the front. So my favorite version of this stretch is to separate your feet and your knees as wide as you feel comfortable. Then you're going to hold on to the front of the chair and the back of the chair as you swivel one knee down. If you prefer to do a standing option instead of the chair, it would look like this, and you can hold on to a mobility aid if you want. You're in the same position as the chair, it's just that your back leg is straight and your front knee isn't as bent. So this would be the standing option. This would be the seated option. And you're tucking your butt under. So hopefully you feel most of the stretch right in the front of your hip, maybe even down the front of your thigh. Again, it's going to depend on where the spasticity or muscle tightness is for you and your body. But once you find it, hold here. If anyone is getting leg bouncing or jiggling, it's likely due to the angle of your ankle. So you can just flop your toes down. It's a little tricky to get in that position, but that should fix it. And hold and breathe. Keeping that bum tucked under. This is one of the stretches where it is okay to round your back just a little bit, as long as that means you're feeling the stretch here, right in front. Stay here a few more seconds. And when you're ready, you can relax that curve. So instead of tucking your butt under, stop tucking. Back can come up nice and tall. Hold on to the front of the chair if you let go, and swivel. And we're going to come all the way over to the other side. So this is for the hip flexors. Before I keep talking, let's get into the right position. So tuck that bum under. So hopefully you feel the stretch here or here. If you don't, you can try to get this leg further behind you and then tuck. The further back your leg is, the more stretch you'll feel. If you're doing the standing option, you'll look like this. Okay, so once you're feeling that stretch, hold. But I just want to share with you, so we're stretching the hip flexors right now and a little bit of the quads too. This is going to be a really important stretch for you if you're someone who walks hinged forward, because that means that your hips can get shortened. You want to lengthen them out. So if you hinge when walking, this is going to be a really good one. Again, if you're getting any leg bouncing, see if you can put your toes on the ground, or sorry, not your toes, the top of your foot, and hold. And when you're ready, you can stop tucking. So just come back up to a regular position. Hold on to the front. Come back to the center and keep your feet wide. So our last hip stretch is going to be this inner thigh. So we've done the front, the outside, the back, and now the inner. So for this inner thigh stretch, your hands are going to be on the lower part of your thighs, not your knees, lower thighs. Hinge forward as you use your hands to push out. And hopefully you feel a little bit of a stretch on the inside of your thighs, either both or one or the other. If you don't feel any stretch, another variation could be to just straighten one leg and come out like this. So there's no right or wrong. We're just trying to feel some type of stretch on our inner thigh. And now this is stretching our adductor muscles, ADD, adductors. And this is going to be a really great stretch if you have tightness or spasticity in the inner thighs, which can cause you to walk as if you're walking a tightrope where your leg comes in. In the physical therapy world, we call that a scissor gait. So you want to stretch these muscles to allow yourself to walk without crossing your feet. You'll be much less likely to trip over them. Okay, come back up. And if you were doing the version I'm doing, we're going to repeat that. If you were doing this version, you're going to switch your legs right now. So you do the opposite leg. When you're ready, hinge forward. And you're still keeping your back flat. If you have wrist issues, you can come down to your forearms, but we're still just trying to push our knees out. All right, and when you're ready, you can come back up, shake your wrists out if you need to, bring your legs back in. And the next one we're going to do is for our ankle. And this is a really important one if you have foot drop or foot drag, foot slap, drop foot. All of that can stem from tightness in our calf muscles. So we're going to stretch our calf muscles. There's a few ways to do this depending on what you have around. If you have a resistance band of any kind, you can use that. If it's a resistance band, like it's stretchy, you're going to want to double it up so that it's a thick tension. You shouldn't be able to get a good stretch with it. So you wouldn't want to, how do I explain that? Like this is much easier for me to pull than if I double it up. It's double the tension, so not as easy. So you're going to put it around the forefoot and pull. So you're trying to relax your ankle, relax your foot. You're just pulling with your arms. If you don't have a tension like that, you could, if you have a chair like this, you can scoot forward and try to put your foot up in that angle. And then the other option is if you have a wall nearby, you can put your hands on the wall, step back with one leg, and you're trying to get that heel down. And then you would switch and do the same thing on the other side whenever we switch. I'm going to do the seated option for now. So choose whichever one you want to do. Let me get this to the right position. All right, and if you're not already, go ahead and join me in this stretch. So the knee is straight. You're trying to get your toes up by using your arms or the position that you're in to get your ankle flex. And you should feel this on the back of your lower leg. So it's anywhere from behind your knee to behind your heel. And sitting up tall with a flat back. Tightness here can be one big cause of drop foot. So it's important we stretch it out. All right, when you're ready, we're going to switch to the other side. So you want to release the stretch and then switch positions. So if you were standing, you're going to switch to the other side. If you're using a chair or a wall, you can just switch to the other side. Face you for this one. If you're sitting like me, just switch. Take a deep breath. Reminder to tell your brain that you're relaxing. This is an okay movement. It's not a threat. You can relax. Sometimes when we stretch, as silly as it might sound, our body views it as a threat and as something that shouldn't be happening. So we need to tell our brain, this is okay. This is good for my body. I can let it happen. And when you're ready, you can release that stretch. All right, so we hit the major muscle groups starting up here. We did our torso so we can allow our bodies to move. I think I forgot to mention why that was important. So we did this stretch. It's important that when we're moving, we can move side to side. But so often we stay rigid and we just move with our body and spine staying in one segment, and that can throw us off balance. So by stretching this way, we're allowed to move our body forward as we normally should. And then we did our hips, we did the front, the inside, front, side, and back, our knees, and our ankles. So I think we've got time to do another round. So go ahead and shake out. I'm gonna grab a sip of water. If you've got your water nearby, then go ahead and grab that. And we'll do round 2 together. And then of course, we'll have time at the end for questions if you guys have any questions for me. That out to the side. All right, so we're going to start again up at our hips, and the first one is our hamstring, so the back of our thighs. So sitting up in the middle or towards the edge of your chair, up nice and tall, straighten one leg, it doesn't matter which one. Ankle can be relaxed, you don't have to keep your foot up or anything. Hands come to the opposite lower thigh, sit up tall, and hinge. And you should feel this somewhere on the back of your thigh. And if possible, enjoy the stretch. For some of you, it might not feel like something you enjoy, but it might feel like you're doing something good for your body, that it's tight and you're releasing that tightness. And again, this stretch is for the hamstrings, and it should help you bend and straighten your knee a bit more freely. Keep breathing, keeping your back flat. And if you're very flexible, you can go further than me. This is what feels comfortable to me. If you're pretty flexible, you might comfortably be able to come all the way down here, but keeping a flat back is key. So we don't have to look the same. All of us doing this class together might look completely different. That's why I always like to mention where you should be feeling it. As long as you're feeling it in the right spot, you're good. Back up. Try your best not to use your hands as you bring that leg in, and straighten the other leg. Once you're in the right position, hands down. If you needed to use your hands, go for it, but I always like to attempt not using them first. Sitting up tall and hinging forward. And again, you're just aiming for the back of the thigh. Anytime I'm working with a client and they're asking me, can you look at this stretch? Am I doing this stretch correctly? Before I even answer them, my first question is, where do you feel it? And if they tell me the right area, then I tell them they're doing it right, even if it looks weird or funky. Knowing where to feel the stretch is the most important thing. All right, and when you're ready, back up. Try your best not to use your hands as you bring your leg in. And then we're going to do our outer hips. So remember, you can either cross your leg and hinge forward, or bring your leg up, sit up, and lean forward. So any of those two options will work. You should feel the stretch somewhere on the outside of your hip or outside of your thigh. This top leg or the leg that's crossed should be dead weight. You're not necessarily pushing that knee down at all. You're increasing the stretch by hinging. If you are someone who has hip circumduction, meaning you swing your leg around because of difficulty bending your knee or drop foot, this is a really good stretch, because when you're circumducting or swinging your leg around, these muscles get really tight. So we need to stretch those out. All right. When you're ready, stop hinging forward, come back this way, lower your legs safely and slowly, and then repeat the same thing on the other side. Once your leg is where it needs to be, allow it to just be dead weight. I think you can see from watching me this, I have much less flexibility on this side. My knee's poking all the way up here, whereas on this side, it fell down a little further. That means I'm tighter on this side, and it's totally normal to have one side tighter than the other. If you're not already, hinge forward. You should feel that stretch somewhere on the outer part of your hip. And as I'm mentioning why these stretches are good, and if you have a certain type of gait or walking, then this stretch will be good. If I'm not mentioning something that you have in your gait, let me know when we do our Q&A, and I'll see if I can think of a stretch for you. So again, this one's good for hip circumduction, hip drop, or if you have hip sway. Keep breathing, especially if this feels like a deep stretch for you. All right, and when you're ready, come back up tall. Slowly lower that leg, and we're going to do our torso twist. If you've started scooting towards the edge of your chair, just scoot back so you're in the middle. And when you're ready, we're going to twist towards the right. So your right hand comes behind you. Your left hand comes to the outside of your thigh, and use your arms and hands to push. And you're twisting, almost like you're trying to wring out your torso, like you'd wring out a towel, a wet towel. You might feel your shoulders getting a nice little workout from this. That's a good sign that you're allowing your torso to relax. One thing I want to mention too, let's go ahead and unwind, and we'll move over to the other side. So left hand goes in back, right hand comes to the outside of the left thigh, and push with your arms. One thing I want to mention is that you don't always have to feel a big stretch or any stretch in order to be stretching the muscle. That is something that I hear all the time, where someone is doing a stretch and they're saying, I don't feel it. And then they're going even further and hinging further forward, and they think they're doing it wrong, or they need to make it harder. And that's not true. We don't need to feel a big stretch in order to actually be stretching the muscle. For example, come back to the center, shake everything out. For example, our knee muscles are not normally straight and then have the added stretch of us hinging forward. We don't normally get into this position. Normally, they're only as stretched as just our knee being straight without hinging forward. So just simply by being here, you are stretching those muscles, even if you don't feel it. So you don't have to feel this huge stretch to get an effective stretch, if that makes sense. Okay, so now we're moving on to our hip flexors. So again, scoot back in the middle of your chair just to make sure you're not too far towards the edge. Separate your feet and your knees. If you're doing the seated option, hold on to the chair in the front and the back and swivel. So one knee comes down. Once you're here, tuck your hips under. And you should feel that stretch in the front, those hip flexors. You might even feel the stretch in the front of the thigh as well, your quads. And hold here. This is the one that's really great if you're hinged forward when you're walking, or standing, or sitting, all of that. If your leg is bouncing, you can flip your foot so that your toes are down. When you're ready, you can relax that leg, hold on to the chair if you let go, and swivel to the other side. Tuck your hips under. If you don't feel the stretch, you can try to get this front leg back a little further and tuck. If you're doing the standing option, it looks like that. So find whatever works for you as long as you're feeling it in the right spot. So front of your hip, front of your thigh, anywhere in there is fair game. Keep breathing. you're ready, relax that leg and swivel to the center. But remember, we're going to keep our feet out. So the goal is to have your feet and knees as wide as you can. So if your knees are falling in like this and you can't get them out, then bring your feet in so that your foot and your knee and hip are in the same alignment. You don't have this angling. So once your feet and knees are as wide as you can be, hands are on your lower thighs, hinging forward and pressing open. If you want to do one leg at a time, one leg comes in, one leg gets fully straight. The straighter your leg and the straighter your knee, the more of a stretch you'll feel on your inner thigh. So any of those options are good options. You can always add a twist or an angle. Maybe you try to lean towards the leg that's straight, or even if you're like this, you can tip, you can twist. It's all about finding the stretch for you in the right area, regardless of if you look a little funny. So keep going. All right, when you're ready, come back up. If you were doing one side, go ahead and switch to the other side. And then hinge forward. If you're doing the regular with two legs, we're going to repeat that one. If you want to add a tip, a twist, anything to increase that stretch, it's fair game. Nothing should ever be painful. If you're feeling pain or heavy discomfort, that's often going to make your body tighten instead of relax. So it's always best to do just a little bit of a stretch, even if it feels so little that you think it's probably not effective. That's going to be better than pushing into discomfort or pain, simply because of the message that that gives our brain. When you're ready, bring that leg in, and we're going to move on to our ankle stretch. So if you have a strap nearby, you can use that. If not, the options were to use a piece of furniture that you have nearby to hold your leg up, or if you can stand and do it, to have one leg behind you and your heel down on the ground. And you're going to be stretching that back leg. Okay. I'm going to use my strap again. All right. When you're ready, if you're not already, feel that stretch, sit or stand up tall, keeping that back flat, and breathe. This one for me is a killer. My calves, for as long as I can remember, have been very tight. So this one, I always feel it a lot. It'll be really interesting if you, well, not if, hopefully most of us will get up at some point within the next hour or so after this class. So get up and move and see if you feel any more ease in your walking, or better posture in your walking, or more balanced in your walking. Stretching out the muscles that are causing imbalances in your mobility can be a really great way to feel more balanced. All right, when you're ready, release that stretch and switch to the other side. And you should be feeling this on the back of your lower leg, anywhere behind your knee to behind your heel, sitting up tall. This is going to be great if you have drop foot or foot drop, foot drag, foot slap, you name it. And keep breathing. Most of the time that I tell you to keep breathing, it's because I noticed that I wasn't, or that I was breathing very shallow. You got to take deep breaths. When you're ready, release that stretch. Let go of that band and shake everything out. So that concludes our stretching, but I do just want to, I want to show you something else. We're going to try another stretch together, just so we can get the idea of different types of stretches. So what we just did, and please shake with me, just by shaking, you're telling your brain to relax and let loose. So we just did static stretching, where we were holding anywhere from 20 to 40 seconds. But another type of stretching is dynamic stretching. So we're going to go back to our hamstring stretch. So straighten one leg out. Doesn't matter what your ankle is doing, your knee should be as straight as possible. Hands are on the opposite lower thigh and sit up tall. So to do a dynamic stretch, you're only holding the stretch for about 2 or 3 seconds and then releasing and then doing it again and then release. And you do that about 20 to 30 times. So I wanted to show you and practice with you what that looks and feels like. So we're all in the appropriate position for a hamstring stretch. So you're going to sit up tall and go ahead and stretch. So hinge forward till you feel the stretch. We're going to hold for 1, 2, 3, and back off. So you either don't feel any stretch or the stretch significantly lessen. Now lean forward so you feel more of a stretch. Hold 1, 2, 3, back off. And forward. 1, 2, 3, back off. So keep going. We're going to do a few more of these. This is called dynamic stretching, where you're stretching but also moving. It's not just a constant hold. Some people's bodies do really great with dynamic stretching. So if you're someone where you have done these stretches before in this static way that we were just trying, and you just feel like they don't really help you, even if you're holding long enough and you're doing them correctly, then trying a dynamic version of the stretch, let's do one more, can be really helpful. Hold and back. And now let's switch sides. So bring your other leg in, straighten your other leg. You can use your hands if you need to. Hands on the opposite lower thigh. Sit up tall, and then when you're ready, we'll do the dynamic version. So hinge forward, hold. Oh, this is tighter for me. 1, 2, 3, and back off. And stretch. So this is the dynamic version. Usually I don't recommend doing both static and dynamic all on the same day, simply because if you do feel great, we want to know why. Is it because the dynamic was great for you, or the static version? But for today's class purposes, I just wanted to demonstrate both so you could see the difference, and maybe between now and our next class, try both and see which you prefer. So you could do static one day, dynamic a different day. All right, back up. And let's just do one other example of dynamic with our hip stretch. So grab your leg or cross your ankle. Again, this is the stretch where we should feel it on the outer hip or thigh. Sit up tall. And if you're really tight, just sitting up tall might feel like a stretch for you. So when we're doing this dynamically, you might just sit up tall and then slouch. And that's what this would look like for you. But if you do have more flexibility and you do need to hinge forward to feel it, then you'll be hinging forward and then backing off. So when you're ready, feel the stretch. So lean into it and relax back out of the stretch. Feel the stretch and relax. So it's about 2 to 3 seconds in the stretch and then about 1 or 2 seconds off of the stretch and relax. So any stretch that you do statically, where it's just a nice long hold, you can also do dynamic. Research shows that they are both equally effective. One is not better than the other. All right, when you're ready, lower that leg. Let's do a few on the other side just to even it our bodies out. Keep that leg on your thigh. Sit up tall. Try to feel the stretch in the right area. And then whenever you're ready, hinge forward or just sit up tall, whatever you got to do to feel it, and back off. And push. Feel that stretch. This leg is dead weight. All the same parameters we used before are still applying here. And back off. And stretch. 1, 2, 3, and back off. Stretch. And again, you normally would do this about 20 to 30 times. We're just doing a few to practice, but normally it'd be 20 to 30 times per stretch. All right, and when you're ready, you can drop that leg, shake everything out. If there is another stretch that you know that you want to do right now, feel free to go ahead and do that. But this class that we did today focused on the inside front, outside, and back of our hips and thighs and knees, and our ankles and our torso, and covers most of the stretches that would help with improved mobility, seated, standing, or walking. So I hope it felt good for you.